What's good, y'all? Good morning. Good morning. All right, let me just check something. The sound is working correctly. Y'all able to hear me this fine morning? I got a new setup today, so it's a little different. Excuse my greasy ass lips, you feel me? But this is the vibe today, you feel me? Man, for those of you who are rewatching this on YouTube, do me a favor, just hit the subscribe button, like, and share with somebody who can relate. I'm gonna say trigger, 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 trigger warning up front, you feel me? As this might trigger you a tad bit. Today our topic is sex after trauma when touch isn't just physical. You feel me? I think we have this misconception about what sex is, what it's supposed to feel like, how we're supposed to move through sexual trauma or just move through sex after trauma. We're all different. We're all going to move through sex a little bit differently, especially when it comes to how we basically. Sorry, I'm still waking up. I rolled out of bed. But just basically how we maneuver through the chaos of like trying to bounce back after sexual trauma. Like some of us were hurt or taken advantage of in our youth. Some of us have been misgendered at birth. Like I don't think a lot of like heterosexuals or like homosexuals realize what that entails. Someone being misgendered at work. We automatically assume the person is trans, not intersect, right? Or they've been labeled again misgendered at birth. I'm not gonna get into the complexity of intersex misgendering because it honestly makes me upset because parents agree to this shit. I'm sorry. But yeah, today we're gonna be doing the same routine per usual, right? We're gonna talk about how we got here, understand our wounds a little bit more. We're gonna understand how we're gonna heal, name, reclaim, and relearn, and then how we move through it. Tools of tenderness. You feel me? Because we're we're this is radical healing within itself, right? I think as queer people or people that are a part of the LGBTQAI, um, we are we're labeled as kinky, or we're labeled a part of like the sex worker community. Not all of us are sex workers, right? So it's just about reclaiming and understanding what it is. Like, I have a few notes on my experience in the sexual trauma. I just didn't want to be splurting out everything to y'all at once. But yeah, let's talk about it. You feel me? Alright, so sexual trauma isn't rare and it shows up in queer communities very differently. For many, queer trauma isn't just one event, it's ongoing, right? What I mean by that, it's like the cousin who touched you, the partner who crossed the boundary because they thought it was okay, the doctors who misgendered us and touched our bodies without care, right? So like very complex, very multifaceted types of traumas that we could experience as young people, as young adults, as adults, like our trauma is layered. It includes family rejection, early hypersexualization, racialized fetishes, right? And the consent pressure to explain. Like just why we're saying no, right? Like we have the right to say no. We don't need to justify our desires, what we want, what we need from our partners, or just when we're saying no to somebody, right? Like no, it's okay. Like like I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you. for the dick pic, I guess. I don't fucking know. I don't receive those shits well anymore. Also not a part of the camera phone era where like little teenage boys is sending me inappropriate pictures, right? So some of y'all are experiencing things like that, right? Early MySpace, like that's not what we're coding. We might be coding like dicks into the messages and shit like that, but we're not like actually sending like dick pics and things. I don't know. I didn't get one then either. And for some of us, like coming out was followed by a different kind of violence being used, tested, coerced by those who claim to be safe. Gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me see if this camera's still on because okay, cool, cool, cool. Because I was like using it the other day and it like froze on me and I was just like, why are people frozen? Why am I frozen? I've been drinking this like witch's brew Alani. This is not an ad whatsoever. I'm so sorry. Do not buy this. But this shit tastes like fucking candy apple. I was like, they selling that shit at the gym. I bought it last night at the gym. I was like, ooh. And they were like, try our new Witcher's Brew. Shut up. I will. But yeah. So sexual trauma isn't rare. It shows up in our community a little bit differently. Going back to the early hyperalization or right being pressured into like saying yes or saying no, like we're gonna get into my shit. Just growing up in, the way that I was grown. I grew up, uh, family members who introduced me to porn, right? Not really family members who molested me or sodomized me at a very young age. Like that's not consent. It's a little pressuring. Like when we dive deep into that, we're not gonna do that here because we've already been to the therapy. But like when you start to think about like little Tamika, like thinking this is like okay, this is normal. I became hypersexual, any type of way. Everything was sexual. Like I remember running around like I should know my little ass was gay then too. Running around like undoing. It's not funny. This is a sexual assault, but we didn't know as a kid, right? Going around running, unstrapping girls' bras in the fifth grade. I'm like, dang, y'all got titties. I don't. Like, I'm just running around flat chested and shit. And like the fifth graders got titties, so I'm just running around. Like, mind you, there's titties everywhere in my house. My dad walking around with his sweats up to his above his stomachs, his titties out. He got titty pillows. Getting not funny. There's pictures of me sitting with my dog on his bed with the lady. I don't know who this lady is. I think it's one of his girlfriends. And like there's a titty pillow in the background. Mind you, if you go up the stairs to my dad's bedroom, you don't see the picture. But when you going down, you see the picture of this black lady with an afro with her titties out and like just butt naked. So like I don't know. So just walking down the stairs just seeing that like I learned to love the female body at a very young age. Let's just say that. So like watching these types of porns or how that was introduced to me and stuff like that. We won't get into that, but now I have a 1970 fetish because we're watching we're sneaking up, getting my dad's porn from, like, mind you, he's born in 1937. So he got porn movies from like the 60s and the 70s. Mind you, we're in the 90s. He didn't upgrade. upgrade. Um, but just watching this and at that time it's girl on girl, so not thinking this is like normal for me, right? Like I'm like, well, these ladies are doing this. That's a normal act. The male and the female are doing that. That's a normal act. So hyperalization starts where like in my teen years, I'm just like, okay, I don't want to have sex with dudes because I don't want to get pregnant. No, we're not getting pregnant. I In the 6th grade, there was an 8th grader who was pregnant. So I was just like, that's never going to be me. I don't know. I know their parents is mad, but hell no. That was like one of my biggest fears. And then when you start to learn about STDs and stuff like that, that becomes an even bigger fear. Especially for me, I don't know about any other kids. I don't know if they were paying attention to sex ed, and I don't think they were, because the way that syphilis and gonorrhea and all that shit it is just floating around. You hear about AIDS in the gay community, then you feel, and then you realize it's a stigma placed on our community, right? Because that shit's happening everywhere. It's not just gay men that are getting HIV, right? It's everybody. Y'all are. The 70s was wild. Y'all have like nudist beach. Y'all also have like these getaway retreats where y'all are just fucking each other. So it's just like it was bound to cross over from heterosexuals to us, because it didn't come from us. It just didn't get created out of fucking thin air, right? No, it was an orgy or two. But yeah, just like realizing at a very early age that sex is multifaceted. It can happen. It's a range of things that can happen in a sexual experience. Thinking that that's the way that sex is supposed to be is probably a downfall to most of us who have been introduced to sex at a very, or yeah, sex at a very young age, porn at a very young age, right? Because some of us have porn addictions, like Kurt Franklin, prime example of someone who had a porn addiction. I don't know if they still have a porn addiction and how that shit got out. Like, why we fucking know about Kurt Franklin singing about Jesus on fucking Sunday, and then on Saturday we know what all his little dirty secrets. Crazy, right? Somebody who, I don't know. When me and my partner just talked about this, but when I think about Usher, all I think about is that STD he got. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like, he's a sex symbol. He's a sex symbol. Not anymore in the back of my mind. You cannot be a sex symbol with a STD. Anyways, sexual trauma. Back to it. A lot of the fear-based stuff that I had was due to going to summer camp for my ski club, going down to LA, taking these classes about STDs. They showing us pictures, all kinds of shit. Like, oh my gosh. Going there, watching those videos and being like, this is not something I don't want to do. Like, especially after the person who is like harming me leaves the house. Like, now that I'm not, let's just take it back. I was molested from age 6 to about 8 or 9 or something like that. Once this person leaves my facility, my area, things stop, right? But now I'm like this hypersexual being, I think. Well, not until like again 10, 11, start to feel ourselves. We start to look better, start to care what we think. Then we care about what other people think or how they look. And we're like, I don't know, I should have known I was gay then too. Like, I feel like the guys that I was dating, rest in peace, Benjamin. But like the men or boys that I was dating, they were just like for show, for candy, to cover up what was inside. I remember in high school, like going back to hypersexualization again, like running up on one of my friends and just like humping him. Like, he would never do it back to me because he knew, like, I should not be doing this to no girl, right? But like, he just didn't. He was like, he never said like, no, you need to stop. Like, I like, maybe again going back to like sexual trauma that we could be causing, right, along the way too, because of our sex trauma. He never was like, oh, this is inappropriate, please stop, type of thing. But doing that, and like, I used him as a scapegoat. I'm like, oh yeah, dad, like, I have this crush on this guy. It's really nice. Me and him are still friends to this day too, which makes it like so funny when I see him, because I'd be like, damn, bro, like, I really tried to use you as a like a fake person that I was interested in. when I was really dating this girl on the side, or the girl on my basketball team. Um, Mind you, like my first sexual experience is at the age of 13 with someone who's older than me, a female. They're 18. So again, boundaries. Trauma changes the body, not just the mind. You might feel fine until a partner touches your hip or a certain smell brings you back to a moment you try to forget. I don't I can't necessarily say that I've had any one of those moments where like something has brought me back to like that experience, but like I know for me, like you can't grab my throat unless I really trust you. Just because the person who did that as a kid used to grab my throat and threaten me type shit. So like I remember growing up, like when people are like getting sexual neck, right? And I'm like, nah, don't do that. Or stay away from my ass. Stay away from my booty hole. For real though. And then like I remember growing up, like going to college my first year, and this girl like just talking about someone eating her ass, and I was just like, at the time, like I'm 19. This is back in 2020, 2004. I'm 18. 2018 or 2004. I'm 18. I'm like, it's damn near 20 years ago, and I was like, no, 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 no. Till someone accidentally slipped back there, and it was initially like, it tickles. So just say that, I'm gonna cut it off right there. But like, yeah, like so. I don't know. I made this a sub only chat, so not everybody is like stating their opinion on it and stuff like that. If you guys, again, if y'all, I didn't see any questions or responses to the doc. Um, mm, Here, I'm gonna leave the link for y'all if you want to submit your questions or just unanimously say what you guys have to say, and I'll check back in with this form for show. Just check it out. Yeah, just check it out. If you want to just vent a little bit without being anonymous and stuff like that, fill out the form. If you have any questions in the future, maybe we can bring it up at the next show or anything like that. If you are a subscriber, this is a way for me to track the people that are calling in. Also, the Discord, the private stuff as well, who can have access to the call in stuff. Going back to how trauma changes our bodies, not just our minds. Trauma responses, freezing, numbing, or people pleasing during sex are survival strategies, not signs of weakness. Sometimes we participate in our own reverse of our healing type of thing. I've done it, people pleasing. Um, like for myself too, I'll sometimes, or in the past, like I'll freeze up. I just like shut down, like sexually, and that's saying a lot, just because like um I feel that I had the reverse effect on my trauma, right? For people who, some people shut down completely, become asexual, aren't really fucking with this whole sexual experience because they don't know that there are other forms of pleasure, right? They're just shutting everything down. I can't say that for every asexual that's happening. I've never been one to like do that. I might get into a sexual situation that I don't like and just shut down that way. Just like, fuck it. Or I feel sometimes that my inner child comes out and I can be giggly in some moments where I'm trying like a new technique, a new toy, or something like that. Trauma responses are not signs of weakness whatsoever. It's a very sensitive subject, right? We're not all having open communications in the bedroom, too. If we're not talking about it, then our body is definitely showing it on the outside, or we don't want to be touched. We don't want any of that. What was once pleasurable might now feel invasive, right? What was once safe might now feel threatening, and that shift can be confusing, especially inside a queer relationship that is supposed to feel liberatory, right? You're supposed to be in your freest form because we chose like this route, right? This is a form of liberation. Our love is liberation. The fact that we walk hand in hand with our partner is a form of liberation. It's a revolution that is like being televised. You know, the fact that we are free, 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 but in the bedroom we're restricted and confined because of the types of trauma and wounds that we're still holding on to can feel very confusing. Very confusing. Uh, It is like threatening in a way, right? Where like I thought I was safe, but now I'm not safe, right? Uh, like even me, my partner discussed these types of things. I especially like over the weekend, like I had we had conversations we hadn't had before. We we had all kinds of things because I was like, I can't go into this live stream and not talk with you first or talk to you about some of the things that I haven't told people or like even her, right? So because I wanted to be open and honest about everything without naming certain individuals and things. Yeah. For some, sex became survival. For others, it became scary. Many of us first learn about sex through harm, not curiosity, not joy, right? If you use sex to gain safety, validation, or a place to sleep, you might still be unpacking how to connect without disassociating. Even consensual early experience, if they happen without full emotional capacity or boundaries, can leave a residual guilt, confusion, emotional shutdown, things like that. Again, I've definitely experienced that, like in some shape, some form. Not right away. I think a lot of that trauma was like a form of dissociation and just me just being like, okay, that happened and that youth, it's not happening anymore. Thank you, Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and all of that, right? It's not something that's happening right now specifically to me right at this moment, but I am dissociated from that experience. I have no emotional capacity to give that experience that happened, which means that I don't have the capacity to give to little inner Tamika, right? Mika Mouse. That's my inner child. We're just gonna call Tamika Mika Mouse. You know, like I'm disassociating from myself at this time. Um, yeah. So I'm just talking about my experience as someone who is a kid who thinks they're heterosexual, or I think at a very young age I couldn't name it. I knew I liked women because I had a crush on my third grade teacher, and I wasn't just on snapping bras just for the hell of it. Like I was like, ooh, this person is beautiful. Let me go be fucking annoying. So I mean, when I got to junior high, I wasn't doing that shit. Obviously, I'm too cool for school, but I think I was like in the third grade at that time. That person was in the fifth grade. I knew them just because I had to get up, walk to their house. Their mom would cook us breakfast. Mind you, like all of the women that live near me or around me are Mexican women. Their moms are Mexican. I'm having a Mexican ass breakfast. I'm having a Mexican ass experience for the most part. But I didn't have my first quinceañera until I was an adult, so that's how annoying I probably was. But we don't always know we were harmed until years later. Like I said, and that delay doesn't make the harm any less real, right? I had people in my life growing up that experienced the same things I did, or not necessarily the same things that I did. I had went through, but maybe their own form of it. I had a friend. He was a guy. This is in high school. Me and him were chit chatting, and he's telling me about his tia that molested him or like taught him things and stuff like that. And he's saying this like it's normal. And I'm just like, not. I told him like a little bit, but I didn't tell him to full extent. But he was like, no, I'm fine, you feel me? Like, I'm fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with me, like, but like maybe his hypersexual nature could be seen as um like a trauma based response, like myself, a trauma based response, right? Like Because, like, I was around friends who just shut down or didn't want, like, named it, didn't want to be touched or things like that by, like, individuals in their life type thing. I should have ate a banana before I came over here, but my stomach's like, rah, rah, rah. But yeah, like, we're just essentially just having disassociation in a way, and just hypersexualization, and it's a form of survival. Like, I think one thing that was interesting to me when I was, like, doing my notes and stuff like that caught my eye was just the whole, like, safety validation, and, like, people finding places to sleep and using sex as a weapon, because essentially sex was a weapon for them, right? How they were someone getting access to them or control of them through sex and stuff like that. Gender trauma. I know I spoke about it a little bit in the beginning about, like, being misgendered at birth by doctors. I don't. That's not my personal experience. Or it could have been. I don't know. Like, I don't have no DNA test to say otherwise, right? For trans, non-binary, and gender expansive folks, intimacy can come with navigating parts of the body that don't feel like home, right? So, like, going back to being misgendered at birth, I can only imagine what this group of people are going through, right? Someone decided for them what they were going to be because one of their sexual organs was developed more than the other, or they had this much testosterone or this much estrogen, and they were like, well, let's just choose for them. Parents get involved, doctors get involved. I feel like parents who just are just like, no, we're not going to decide right now. We're going to allow them to decide once they come into form, because we don't know what we're doing, right? You're about to give a hysterectomy to somebody who didn't ask for it. And if, as a baby or a young person, I don't know, I think those types of surgeries happen over, like, the first 5 years of their life, right? Just because their body's still developing. That is that's a traumatic experience. I don't gotta live it to understand that shit sound fucking traumatic as fuck. For those folks navigating body parts that don't feel like home, right? Honestly, I be trying to disassociate from my titties all the time. Why? Because they're in the way. They're in the way. Especially now that I'm older, like, that's why I'm trying to do more bench press, because I'm about 2 seconds for from cutting these bad boys off so I can have, like, a back that's, like, not hunched. I don't know. Um, it's not the same. I just don't want my titties in the way anymore. I be rolling over them at night. They in the fucking way. I'm not, I'm going back to being serious. But I'm serious. You might crave closeness, but still feel discomfort or grief when touched in ways that activate past harm or disconnection. Some areas of the body may carry shame, history, and erasure, especially when others have projected expectations onto you. Yeah, I think I've been there too, where I've been on the other end of this, right? Going back to, like, my hyperalization of sex, right? Or watching porn in my adulthood and just trying to see, right? Because I watch porn just to see, do I want my titties off? Do I want to be a trans man? Or there were some things I had to work through, right? As a person growing up. I remember reading, like, the Stone Butch Blues and just having a different perspective, and we can get into that in just a second. But I remember being like, yeah, because apparently porn is how we learn about sex, right? I'm watching trans sex, and I, like, bring this up in a club setting to my friends. I was like, man, I really wish that my clitoris, trigger warning to people, my clitoris was, like, really big, because there are women out there with big clitorises without being trans or anything like that, right? They're just naturally, we have different bodies, right? Damn, I wish that I could just take testosterone to target a specific area of my body so it just grows, right? And I'm talking about sex scenes, and then my one of my friends pulls me to the side and is, hey, you're very insensitive about this topic. I could tell that was uncomfortable. They are trans. And I'm just like, what? I would have never guessed. Why are you telling me this? Did they want you to tell me this? Are they naming this? So I was just like totally thrown off, and I was like, well, that's not my intention. Now I have so many questions. And it's just like some people are just like, ask your trans friends like certain things that you want to, don't ask the world, don't go on Instagram, be like, so blah blah blah. And it's like, ask your friends. So in my head, I'm like, now I have so many questions about the process, their thing. I've also had friends transition from men to women. And when I first meet them, I don't know this about them until somebody fucking brings it up or they bring it up, right? I remember my friend was going through bottom surgery and they were comfortable enough to tell me and stuff like that. But I was just like, I have so many questions still. I still have questions when we think back to it. But like, I didn't have that much time with this person. Now they're doing so well in Hollywood. So I love them so much. But yeah, I didn't know that they were even a trans woman. I thought they were just a regular woman that I was attracted to because I'm dancing with them, salsa dancing in the club with them. I was just like, what? Why would you like? Why would you tell me that? Now I run the risk of like misgendering them, but I don't. I I'm still working on like gender, like pronouns and like referring to people as the pronoun that they want instead of the pronoun they were given at birth. For me, my pronouns are she, but I don't get offended if they're like they, them, or he, she, or he, him. Like I don't get offended. But some people do get offended because they're trying to make a statement. Not a statement, so to speak, but like they're reclaiming their identity after being misgendered and things like that. So like again, like every act of the LGBTQ community is a form of liberation. So we should be reclaiming like that pleasure often that we don't really claim, right? Reclaiming pleasure often means setting new boundaries, redefining what touch is welcome, and unlearning scripts that weren't written with you in mind. Unfortunately, the script of LGBTQ wasn't like written for us, right? If you read A Stone Butch Blues, and that would be like the book that I would share for you if you really want to know about like how queerness or the trans movement started and how not started, but because I believe the author transitioned out of necessity, not necessarily how they felt. At the time, being gay was illegal. So, in order for them to have a legal marriage, they transition or just to be seen as themselves, a person who love women, you know? But I could be wrong. Cause like the book ends with the first riot, which is the Wasp and the Pride, and how they felt to see all different types of like queerness. I don't know. I hope they turn the Stone Butch Blues into like a movie. I think that would be a great movie or great story to tell because as queer people, we've grown so much and we've evolved so much from those days of being persecuted, being arrested, being raped in prisons and jails and things like that. Now we have a system where like trans men and trans women can be in their respective like jails and stuff like that. But also, honestly, that's another, I think, harmful thing too because not everybody who's saying they're trans women are actually trans and they're raping women in prison here in California. That's a whole different other story. We'll get into that a different time. Now that we talked about our trauma, I didn't get into all of mine, but like my first sexual experience is with a woman. Basically, that's my first form of consent, and I kind of just flow this way at the age of 13, just in and out of it. I don't have my first sexual experience with a man until like 2021. All right, I can officially call myself a lesbian because this shit is trash. I mean, I think it was gonna be as good as it was gonna get, but I was like not there. I was like, all right, bust my nut already. I got to go. That's how I treated it. I treated them like I would be treated. Unfortunately, I don't know. I feel like those experiences too were still in a space where, if I look back on it, we're like, yeah, I may have said yes, but I probably wanted to say no in the middle of it. Just like, I'm just kidding. I I don't really like this, right? Tried one size, didn't fit all. Tried another size, fit all, and I was just like, yeah, what's the hype? I don't understand why you bitches is. Never mind. It's like, I don't understand why y'all dick whip over here. Over this. What is happening? But I think that was a part of like, we're getting into like healing and how we name and reclaim and relearn, right? That was a part of me reclaiming consent, or like the experience in a way where like I'm in control of this. It's pussy power. Like, do I like it, or am I not dating men because of that first experience or experiences of sexual assault, right? So I think the first step to healing is naming what was taken and what still hurts. Reframing sex and pleasure as yours to define is a radical act, right? What is it that you're naming? What is it that you're reclaiming? I'm reclaiming my virginity, right? And then I am willingly giving my virginity to someone else. Mind you, if we're talking about virginity, like in that at that time, I was like, well, it needs it. I'm still a virgin up until like I have sex with a man. That's what I'm thinking, but that's not fucking true, or that's not what I claim. So now, like when we're looking back on it, like, no, I lost my virginity to a woman when I was 13. You know, not I became a silver star lesbian at the age of 20. Like, I call myself silver star because there are some gold star lesbians out there that have not had any sexual relationships with men. And in my mind, I'm always like, why is that? But we all have our own preference, right? After those two experiences, I was just like, I could have just not had them. Like I could have just continued on my gold star way. Now I got this silver fucking star attached to my name. So am I lesbian stud? No, I never claimed to be a stud. I claim to be a stem. Am I still attracted to men? Yes, men are attractive. I just don't. Like, I've tried many times to picture myself like dating a man, and it's just like, unless you're a gay man or a queer man, because you would have to be bisexual, right? In order to date me. I don't know. There's like this fluidity within gay boys. I tried dating a trans man. I feel like that's like dating myself. It's like looking in the mirror, and I want to look at something like pretty, more beautiful than me. I guess. I don't know. Like, there are beautiful trans men out there. Like, just like how I look at like a man is how I look at a trans man. Like, oh, they got a nice body. But I don't know if I can go through with the sexual part of it. And again, I'm probably still working through some of the heterosexual norms that are like ingrained in my head type thing. So just reframing sex and pleasure as yours, and to define it as a radical act. Like, you gotta take the first step. and healing, name it. What still hurts? How can you maneuver through it? Is this a conversation that you can have with your partner? Consent isn't just verbal, it's somatic. How to tune into your body's yes and no or not yet. So like again going back to what I said about the two dudes, like I completed the act. Like, you know, I came, he came, but in the midst of that, like my body was just like, why are we here again? Like, oh, we gotta go. But I didn't leave. Or oh, no, we don't like this. Like, be aware of what your body is saying. Your body is going to be forever talking to you about what it wants, what it needs, what it doesn't like, what it does. So just pay attention to it. Therapy helps, but community witnessing can too. Encourage finding trauma informed spaces, queer therapists, support circles. Like recently, like or last year, at the end of last year, I was at an event that it's called my healing lingo, and they do support circles for people who are experiencing sexual trauma and things like that. So I did my first poem about my sexual trauma, and I was just like, I haven't done that poem since that day, but I had not realized the things that I didn't work through, the things that I'm still working through. Like, you know, healing isn't linear, so like don't expect that once you name it, find it, redefine it, it's going to look differently tomorrow, cuz like something else might trigger the same type of trauma, and it will just I believe that like yeah, it just comes up because like I've forgiven this person, I've named it to this person. We haven't had a conversation about it, but like I've kind of like forgiven, let go. They can't do anything about it. The healing process is about me and how I maneuver through it. So writing that poem was very necessary for me to like actually name it and put it on paper, you know? Because as a kid, when you're venting to your friends about it, you're like giggling about it, you're laughing about it, like you're shameful about it, but you shouldn't be shameful. You weren't developed enough. It was really the person who was older than you who should have taken responsibility, who shouldn't have caused the harm that they caused, you know? Um, yeah, so therapy, find a group. It worked for those folks who were in the program, and it was so interesting because they teamed up with an artist and painters. I was inspired by some of their stories as well, so I put a little bit of me in those stories when I did the poems, and I put a little of them in those poems as well. Um, yeah, because it's we're here to definitely heal as individuals, and it's not like trauma bonding, right? It's support because we never really fully talked about these types of experiences that had happened to us or that are still ongoing. Like we don't know what people's stories are. Maybe they still have this connection with their abuser from their childhood, and it's like an ongoing thing where they're just continuing this. We don't know. Like every experience is different. How we heal through it is also an experience within itself. Rewriting pleasure. It starts with safety, slowness, and on sexual intimacy. Eye contact, cuddling, holding hands, sexual dancing, all forms of intimacy. Like as me and my partner moved through some of our sexual trauma and our sexual intimacy, like we practice these things. We've looked up like Kundalini. Like there's a book that's on Amazon. I'll find it for you, and it's like Kundalini, like positions for lesbians type of thing. So like these are like poses, yoga poses that are like opens up your your sacral chakra type thing. Or the eye contact. We've done yoga, couples yoga. That's a form of sexual intimacy and stuff like that. We're always cuddling, we're always holding hands. So there's a lot of intimacy like in our relationship, even if we're not physically having sex. Redefining what sex is, right? For queer folks, intimacy can be everything but penetration. And that's just as valid, right? So, again, like, what is sex? Because sex is different. Like, it's not like someone who is like in my position, right? Like, let's just say we show up, backpack in hand, strap, ready to go. And like, this person doesn't like penetration. Like, what do? Right? You navigate through it. You might have to talk about it. Definitely have to talk about it because I don't know, before you even put the backpack on your back, you should have already had this conversation about what is it that you need as someone who is what it is that you need as my partner, as a sexual partner at that, regardless of what kind of relationship you're in, whether you're in a monogamous relationship, polyamory relationship, any type of open relationship, right? Sex, talk about sex. If you're not talking about sex, in all actuality, you are the biggest advocate for your healing your body, right? All of it. You know what you want. You know how to make yourself come. If you don't know if you never touched yourself and you do not know your body, you do not know what ways in which your body knows how to orgasm or just receive pleasure in general, maybe you can explore that. Maybe you should explore that. Maybe you should go get an Airbnb and explore your own body. You don't gotta buy up the whole store, but maybe it is time for you to figure out where your intimacy is, what is something you like, what is something that you don't like, so you can effectively communicate and redefine sex for you, right? And now I'm taking so much of your time. We passed 7 o'clock mark. How we move through it? How do we move through it? Ask yourself, what does safety feel to me and my body? Not just what what it looks like on paper, right? Like I said, what is safe for me? Like, again, exploring your body, learning what you need as an individual is probably the first step. Pleasure mapping, body sovereignty, exercise, yes, no, maybe, list, mirror work, solo exploration. If you are mirror working or you are like trying to work with your partner and figure it out, just maybe y'all are in an open space. Honestly, having like sexual conversations in a vulnerability space. One night we had a conversation after yoga on our backs. That was that was an easier conversation to have with my partner than after a fight or after feeling rejected, or like little things that find a space, create the space with your partner if that's something that y'all are doing, mirror work, and figure it out. Touch, yes, yes, no, maybe, like little things like that. That's like however it is, lights on, lights off, whatever it is that you guys need. Communicating with partners, can I tell you what's hard for me? If you need to write a script, write a script. If you need to write down strategies in order to maneuver through this verbally, write it down. Navigate and disclose without shame, like this is your time too. It's not just one person in the bedroom. There's two of you, you know? Or if there's three of you, it doesn't matter. Four of you, five. It really doesn't. You still should be able to navigate the conversation without shame. Making room for dysphoria and desire. Tips for partners and queer folks navigating gender, touch, or body changes. Again, like I'm not someone who is transitioning, nor have I been with anyone who has transitioned, but I'm sure that in this body, if they are like a masculine presenting woman and they want to turn trans, right? They don't feel comfortable with their body, right? So they might tell you not to touch their breasts, right? Do not touch my breasts because it's an area where I'm disassociated with it, and so when you touch it, it makes me feel. Name it, whatever it is, like like it's your body. Um, like sometimes my partner's like, I love your titties. I'm like, well, it's technically not your titties. They're on my body and I don't want them. Technically, again, I don't want them because they're in the way and they hurt my back. But Sam J has a special on HBO, and one of the episodes about these studs that wear no bras and they are outside with their titties out, and they're like, dudes do it all the time. Those masculine women, I love them because they're like, I don't give a fuck what it looks like. They're outside playing ball like this. I'm like, I wish I was that confident. I wanted to look a certain way if I had my shirt off. I have binders in a fucking cart right now. I'm just hesitant to buy another fucking binder though because I had one with a zipper in the front. My titties just busted out of them. So just making room for dysphoria and desire, like just communicate is overall, right? Joy isn't the opposite of trauma. It's how we survive it. In with stories of reclaiming pleasure, softness, and connection. Please tell your story. Please reclaim your pleasure. Please reclaim the softness. Please reclaim the connection. Connection to yourself and connection to your partner. I haven't seen the chat to see if anybody was here. I didn't hear anything either. Ding, ding, ding. None of y'all are subscribed right now. I'm so sorry that we closed it off. I really appreciate y'all stopping in and stopping by with me. I'm Tamika Denise. I'm Yo Auntie, the neighborhood auntie. This is Yo Auntie Fix My Life. And I will catch you next time. The next session that we have, let's see. Our next episode is episode 5. Openness, monogamy, polyamory, and everything in between is on 8/19. Doing love differently, navigating jealousy, honesty, and commitment. There's like some I think there's not miscommunication, but we tend to think that because like people are in polyamorous relationships that they're not navigating jealousy, and that could probably be far from it, right? We still are all human. So I appreciate y'all stopping in, stopping by. If you haven't already done so, click the link, follow,